Hey guys, I wanted to do a quick video on stuff that I'm running into, going down a rabbit hole of trying to prepare legal documents for a case I'm working on, and I have to do some research for it, find exactly what I want to talk about, what cases I want to cite, and I get into a spiraling conspiratorial rabbit hole. But it also brings up stuff that I didn't quite find a connection to or didn't have, so I want to share it with you. And I was going to do it on YouTube Live, but my audio doesn't seem to be working properly to where I can hear, so I can't check right now until I restart the computer. And if I do that, I close the tabs, I lose them, blah, blah, blah. So I'm doing this on OBS real quick. Hopefully, audio is recording fine. My mic seems to be registering. So, where did I start? My gosh. Maybe I can go back here. So, Freedmen's Bureau. First, I could probably close down all this Gmail stuff, but since I'm preparing documents, I'm finding personal communications between myself and the attorney who represents the county treasurer for the property taxes and blah blah blah. Trying to know. I know I can't get no remedy in the county courts over property taxes, so because in the purview they don't have the authority to dismiss the case for property tax acquisition because, for one, the docket is full of hundreds of properties that are, tax delinquent or whatever. And I've seen this because I've been part of it. No person is being sued individually. It's just a bulk load of properties. So you don't have the ability to do much of anything in that court. They tell you can write an objection and you can show up in person and you can, you can come up to the stand as if you're a defendant and speak to your objection. But where's the authority to put motions in? What motions will be even granted in the court that the court has the authority to do? Because there's nothing that the court's going to impose on the treasurer to stop their actions, to prove their conduct to be unlawful. It's all about just the property. What is the property? Does it need an extension of time to pay off what it's due? Because it's always going to be due. Or maybe it's a mix-up in the names of who's supposed to be the taxable person, really. One thing you will learn if you do actual research like I have in the title searches, and you go to Register of Deeds or whatever, your local county office, you may find out, like I have, that the property itself is not what's getting registered in and out of the Register of Deeds at the county. It's not the land, it's not the buildings, it's the taxpayer themselves. And it's not even on a paper that they sign. If you have a quote-unquote deed that shows the transfer of responsibilities to a property, then that is what gets registered there, and that just signifies that taxpayer is no longer liable for the taxes, and this one now is, and that person becomes registered into the Register of Deeds, and that is done to acquire jurisdiction. I found that out in the law library here locally in Michigan, under the probate, I think it's just Probate and Trust Journal. So law books up at the law library here. So, knowing this, you have to figure out what kind of remedy can you do. And I was looking in, you know, normally when you file a federal lawsuit against a state government or something, or against anybody who's preventing you from exercising your own constitutional rights, for U.S. constitutional rights, you would file a Section 1983 out of Title 42, like I have here up on the screen right now, or a subsection 1985, which is slightly different. So, and I was trying to see, all the cases that I seem to pull up are more person to person and not person to government. It seems like every time I pull up one that's a government one where a person's suing the government under these sections, there's no wins. So what is the remedy, and by law, for you to sue the government for violating the U.S. Constitution? And I wanted to know, when was this law drafted? And you find that out by going to, let's see if I still have the tab up right here. The U.S. Code, these are all the statutes of federal law, all the titles. And one I mentioned earlier is under Title 42, Public Health and Welfare. And it is subsection 1983, 1985, if I remember right. And those are right here under civil rights. Here's all the lists of them. 1983, civil action for deprivation of rights, and then 1985, conspiracy to interfere with civil rights. So one is complete depriving, the other one's a conspiracy to interfere. I wonder if this one's more to do with the government, if it even says anything about the government. I know 1983 says people under color of law doing things. Well, like pretending to be an official, or pretending to follow their procedures and policies, or actually disobeying their oath to the U.S. Constitution, because he seems like wildly different things. So preventing looks like a government from doing something, obstructing justice, depriving persons of rights or privileges. So number 3 in this section seems to be the only one for civilian. And again, this just looks like suing persons, not suing a state. Constituted authorities. So what does that mean? Constitution? Intimidate or threat? That's probably your biggest thing, because I don't think that was mentioned in the other one. So this is the big one, you know. It doesn't say you can't sue the government for it, but it doesn't say that the government could be party. You know. So anyways, I wanted to look up when this law was drafted, 1983. And at the bottom it says when it's published. 1979 seems to be the earliest date. I had some updates along the way. 1979 was there a statute beforehand that people were using to sue for violating constitutional rights? And that brought me to this is a somebody's law paper they did and submitted to Suffolk University Law School in Boston. And this seems to be their paper. And it was entered into NGD. I don't know if that's New Jersey District US Courts.gov. websites, PDF. Be very interesting if that's where this is. And this pulls up court cases and stuff of what was used beforehand. I haven't fully read through it yet. It's 44 pages, so it's going to take a while. But I know these Iqbal cases right here being mentioned are the, like, I want to say the 9/11 terrorism charge cases, you know. So I don't know what U.S. constitutional rights they would have besides we have to kind of treat people that we're going to prosecute with our laws as having the same protections as U.S. citizens. Of course, that's blatantly violated with prison camps and Guantanamo and all that. Anyways, I still got to look through this, and I don't think I pulled anything from it directly to look up. Maybe I did. I came down a ways. I think I highlighted something. See, under color of state law, different circuits, statute of limitations, that's how long you have to file something. Individual capacity versus official capacity suits. So this is definitely seems more keen to what I'm trying to find. Cases that would be involved with government to person versus person to person. And I'm also looking at times. What if it was person to person? What did they sue under? So I still got to look into this, and I need to print this. While this is printing, and hopefully it's not too loud. I am going to go, how to get the declaratory decree. Was it this one? I believe so. So I looked up, this case happened prior to, this is 1979, this would have been the year that that statute was drafted, or at least published into Congress. And yet this case references, here we're talking about stuff that happened in the 60s. The case is in the 70s, almost 80s. And then the Civil Rights Act came 1983, 85, 86. So when exactly was this case? If it was this time, how could they reference something in the future? Pretty confused by that. Let's see. So I don't know if it's kind of maybe appealed years later or something and went back and referenced, hey, this is now the law, but I feel like something that's tried before shouldn't be held to the scrutiny of what's present. So this case I looked up, Powell v. Workman, it's not this one. That brought me here, went to case text. And I'm finding other cases here that are referencing Powell v. Workman that are also citing the 1985 thing that was drafted in 79. Try not to get confused on the dates. But it was decided in this court in 64. How can they cite something that was written in 79 that's cited in 64? Maybe this section is older than what I understand, but maybe I'm tripping myself up on that and it was established in the 60s. But either way, I just need to know a time before. So this case was in '64. Was this before, you know, the Civil Rights Act? I'll just Google it real quick. When was the Civil Rights Act signed? Oh, there you go, 64. Okay, so it was 64. So anything prior to 64, then I need to know, like in the 50s and stuff, what did they use to file constitutional complaints? Printing that now. And this is going to be my other tangent. Let me get to... I saw a declaratory degree in something. I looked it up. What did I Google, though? Googled something and it got me to a declaratory degree. Is a decree declaring the right of the plaintiff. Declaratory judgment is a judgment which early states that the rights of the parties in an already complicated transaction. But I think this is citing something from Indian law or something, like Indians' common law, because anywhere I go from here seems to go out of country. But that is referenced in a... It's referenced in the, like a Louisiana case? That's not it. And it's all written in English, too, which I don't know, maybe... I know they speak Hindu? Where did I see it? Okay, this is what got me there. So, in Michigan, state of Michigan, they have adverse possession, which is a way for people to, like a trespasser could claim property. There's seems to be certain criteria to be met, that like just ways that were established through common law, but nothing that's really written in any type of statute besides right here. This is straight from Michigan state of Michigan's government website from their statutes. But it's for claiming title under deed or court-ordered sale. They make the entry first accrue to himself or to someone through whom he claims, which I've done. He commences the action or makes the entry within the periods of time prescribed by this section. So the time limits of each of these: defendant claims title of land in question, or by through land in question by, or through some deed made upon the sale of the premises by an executor, administrative guardian, blah 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 blah. So I've claimed title to the land in question, but I'm not trying to do an adverse possession because I'm not using their statutes to acquire law. I'm just saying what, they have their own process for this, which I'm sure can only be granted to state of Michigan residents. I could probably get around that by saying that they talk about legal tribunal, or tribal. Oh, I thought it said tribal in here earlier. Maybe it didn't. Yeah, I thought it said tribal, but title under some deed made by. See, that's not what I want to use because my deed does not reflect full ownership. It just shows that I'm liable for taxes and I can use property. That's about it. 3, when the defendant claims title through a device in any will. So this is trust law. So if you have a deed and you're claiming it and there's been 10 years where whatever, I can't remember if it's if they pay taxes or not. One was 5 years, and it's been almost 5 years since I made my claim. It would be April of next year. It would be 5 years from the time I posted my claim. When the defendant claims title through a device in any will, that's trust law, 15 years. Any other cases under this section, the period limitation is 15 years. And this was drafted before that civil rights stuff. Just a side note. Anyways. Yeah, I was trying to look at other courts that kind of do this, other states. That I already found out. I think I already claimed that, yeah. I already printed it. Okay, so then I got to this Special Relief Act, but I think it's just India. But I've heard it referenced in it seems to be more between England and India, but I've heard it referenced in U.S. court cases, specifically the Declaratory Judgment, right? Here, when you click on this one, or rather this image, petition for declaratory judgment. That's the state of Louisiana court. So this is all here where you're getting a judge to kind of make a ruling on this of something that you're declaring to be true, like a right that you have, and that is your declaratory decree. And when the judge signs on it or orders the judgment that the statement is true, it becomes a declaratory judgment. So that might be what I have to do. But I wanted to circle back to the time where all this took place and find the exact moment of anything that could help pinpoint the exact moment when we lost title to the land. I know it was the U.S. Civil War, and I pulled up in my Black's Law Dictionary, 10th edition, has these 2 pages are definitions of different types of ownership. So even the first word on here just says own. To rightfully have or possess as property, to have legal title to. That's the first one. Because I've had the county treasurer's attorney say in court that I am the home owner. Well, what does that mean? What is my level of ownership? There's different kinds. These are two different ones that are also in this book right here up on the screen. One is corporeal ownership, the ownership of material things that has physical existence, capable of being seen and touched, like tangible stuff. Ownership of land, money. I don't know how you can own money when it's government tender, so that's confusing. I wonder if they mean like credit, and credit wouldn't be corporeal, it would be incorporeal. Machine, so that could be a vehicle. Building, house. So was he referring to me being a corporeal ownership? That's something I'm going to be adding to this next court. And then there's incorporeal, which I don't have pulled back up, so I'll just pull it up again. And it means not ownership of a thing, meaning like something physical, but ownership in a right related to a thing. Now, whenever you're told about your rights in America to property, they say your right to use and possess the house, the land, but you're never told that you have the full ownership or you have the corporeal ownership. It seems more like an incorporeal ownership because you don't own the land. You own the responsibility of paying taxes for it, which is like rent, and you own the right to use it, and you own the right to transfer your responsibilities to someone else. You have that right too. So yeah, I know, and I know the area that originated all this, and it was right at the Freemen Bureau. There's two things that happened during the Civil War. There was the Lieber Code that was done as General Order Number 100. You'll hear another General Order number be mentioned when we talk about the Copperheads. And the Freemen Bureau is the second thing. So the Lieber Code is where the military declared martial law, suspended habeas corpus, suspended the entire U.S. Constitution because they could confiscate land, houses, they could quarter themselves in whatever building they needed to. This was the Union, not the Confederates, doing this. Very tyrannical. And then after that came the Freedmen's Bureau, where supposedly it was to help the freed African slaves get their own land, because for some reason there was not enough land to go around, which is absolutely a lie. But they served it up as everything's been taken and the white plantation owners need to give up their land and whatever, don't care about that. I'm not trying to defend that. But the just regular people that owned houses, from what I understand, had to give it up too, just for living in the South. And it doesn't seem to be, I don't think it was limited to just the South. We could look that up real quick. Was the Freedmen Bureau Taking houses in the north. I don't want to have to go through and read a whole bunch of stuff again. Anyways, something to look up to see, because my speculation is that they destroyed home ownership. The government seized it all back in 1862, I believe the Lieber Code was. 1863. Excuse me. General Order Number 100. Signed by Lincoln. Okay. And this is probably a real cookie cutter thing of it. You can actually print out the entire Lieber Code. I got it from some project. Avalon Project, I think it was called. From Yale Law. Yeah, right here. You can go through all the articles and everything. So, it's legit. So they took government control over everything that they were, I mean, if they were fighting in the north, why wouldn't they suspend all the rules there so they could also use those houses and whatever equipment they needed to win the war? You know, I don't think it was just set up for the South. So between the government taking it over and suspending the U.S. Constitution, and then the Freedmen Bureau coming in later and redistributing the land, it never went back to land patent, which was the original way to hold title of land, which they could not tax the land under land patents, because that's the highest level of ownership and is protected by the U.S. Constitution under Article 1, Section 8, under discoveries, and then that's the reason why George Washington and Hamilton set up the U.S. Patent and Trade Office. So why is it such a big deal? Well, the government is holding our property ransom over us, and we have no say when the government gets too tyrannical, too enforcing. Instead of us just donating our earnings to the local government, I mean, it could draft up a bill and say, hey, we're requesting this much to do what we need to next year. And we could say yay or nay on that. We should be the arbiters and controllers of the funding of our own government, and right now we're being held ransom to it. And that's just county level. States give the counties the laws to do this to us, but states don't receive that money, supposedly. States have income tax because that is authorized by the U.S. Constitution and then their Constitution. Federal government only receives money from us through income tax, not through property tax. And there's many other taxes out there. There's, alcohol tax, there's gas tax, there's all sorts of stuff. But setting those aside, that's more of on a consumption basis, which kind of makes sense, but you have the right, an American way, you're supposed to have a house to raise a family, and that's why we separated from England and France and Spain. So I fell back in, and now they can hold that ransom over us, and when we try to fight it in court, we lose because they think it's for the public good, that we are not allowed to own our property, and we're never taught that we don't own it. We're just called homeowners and not what type of homeowner. And we own nothing and think we own everything. So this recommended a book into the Freedmen's Bureau, a little more research, which I'm going to try to look into. Bureau of Construction. It was one of the books recommended in one of these things earlier. Even the History Channel has covered the Freedmen's Bureau, and I've already printed it, so I don't need to save this. See, freedmen and abandoned lands. Which lands were abandoned? And it's big things that are done are always done under the proxy of something else. So, Civil War was done under the proxy of freeing blacks. And what actually happened is all Americans lost right to own private property, regardless of race. That was the first step of turning us into a communist state, which we are in. We just don't know it. Well, some of us know it. Now, when I looked up Freemen's Bureau, these things popped up right here, little icons that are also related. How's Ku Klux Klan to the Freemen Bureau? We're getting kind of edgy now. And I never heard of the Copperhead organization, and I didn't know. It's a democratic, political democratic organization who opposed the Civil War and wanted a peace settlement. I would like to know what that peace settlement was. Peace settlement by Copperheads. Back to the Wikipedia. Peace treaty. They didn't want the war. They wanted the Union to just come back together and not be all divided. Anyways. Yeah, when I keep doing this, I want to see the actual settlement. And I can't get that pulled up. I'd probably have to go to wherever it was. I just closed everything out. That was stupid. I'd like to see maybe where it was entered into court or where it was drafted. I know Ohio was a certain place of interest. I think the main head of the organization was there, so some of those documents could be archived in the local libraries there. This is by order of when I look things up, so this is going to make things even more difficult to pull back up. If I start, there's the Ohio history one, and then I can probably open up just the wiki in another. And then they had relations to the Knights of the Golden Circle, who are the acclaimed Jesus, look at this. Let's seceded and stopped uprising before it occurred. Confederate supporters hoped to capture the Michigan, a gunboat operating on Lake Erie near Sandusky. I mean, this was a very aggressive group of Democrats that were trying to overturn what Lincoln did, and the Knights of the Golden Circle are said to be the ones that assassinated Abraham Lincoln. And where I heard them from before was a TV show called something Code. I'm trying to remember it. That bald guy that hosted. Let's see. Man, what was that TV show? The Golden Circle, from what I understand, is supposed to be kind of like the ring of the states and countries that surround, like, the Bahamas. That was supposed to be the Golden Circle. Where slavery would be legal. Freemasons somehow in that too. So the Knights of Golden Circle turned into the Sons of Liberty. I think they were Knights of something else before that too, or in between these two. Jesse James was supposedly part of them. The outlaw who robbed trains and stuff. What's that TV show called? That is really messing me up now. Something Code. IMDb. I wonder if this is it. I don't think it's that. Brad Meltzer's. There we go. Decoded. That's what it was. Brad Meltzer's Decoded. I knew the word code was in there somewhere. But they're just kind of looking for a lost treasure, and they stumbled upon the KGC as being the actual assassin group of Lincoln and stuff like that. But of course, they don't uncover everything. But it was interesting to get a little peek into the conspiracy. And so this group, the Copperheads, which were, the political organization that were attributed and part of the KGC, were known as the Copperheads, and they, because of this pendant that you're looking at, something that they wore, the Lady Liberty had large cent coins, and then who took over? Who ended up becoming the actual Copperhead later? Abraham Lincoln. The very person that the Copperheads were trying to take out through the KGC when they couldn't do it politically themselves. They were trying to go back to a Jacksonian Democracy. Jackson was not a good person. I think he was for states' rights, but he treated the Native Americans horribly, and that stirred up the Petticoat Affair and the anti-Mason political party that was back in the 1820s, around the time that he became president. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. The group that wanted Lincoln dead were called the Copperheads, and then Lincoln became a Copperhead because he's on the penny. That cannot be a coincidence. So you haven't looked into it, check it out, because this is the time where Americans lost their right to own their land. And that's why they have to pay an annual rent now to use the land so that they can live in their own homes and pretend that they still have a U.S. Constitution, when most of the Constitution was set up to protect a person's right to property. And it was just taken away from us and then not taught in schools. And if you don't look it up on your own because you have no interest in history, you lose your rights. And we'll just head right back to slavery. So that was my rabbit hole. I gotta get back to trying to figure out what to include in a motion and what not to, because I tend to rant too much and then it gets confusing in court, and a lot of things don't even need to be said. It's not always the place to grandstand and to have a legal argument. Even sometimes it's just calling them out on what they're contractually obliged to do, and when they don't know any better because all they do is what they're taught to do. It's like soldiers don't know much about world history. They just follow orders and go to countries and create borders and screw with other countries. It's a very lack of intelligence. So once you're exposed to it, once you've been informed, you become responsible, and you should be judged on that. That's all I got. Take care.